Welcome back. We are talking about wastewater treatment. In this video, we'll be talking about the basics of wastewater treatment. As discussed in some of the previous videos, the wastewater coming from different sources such as houses, commercial establishments, and industry, it will be entering into a treatment plant. And the number of materials are there, the impurities are there in the wastewater. So there can be large floating material, there can be inorganic solids, organic solids of different sizes. So all the floating material, if at all, if they are available, then they will be removed using a device called bar screen, which is nothing but a mesh where it will screen out all the large particles and only finer particles will be moving through the screens. And the wastewater coming out through the screens will be sent out into another chamber called grid chamber, where heavy inorganic and some organic solids they are also settle down due to gravity. And afterwards, some small size solids they will be settling down in the primary sedimentation tank. Why it is primary sedimentation tank? Here we are using two places, and in the initial stage we are using, so it is a primary sedimentation tank. And here most of the inorganic solids and some portion of the organic solids they will also be removed depending on their sizes. And the most biological solids which are there, which can be decomposed by bacteria, so they will be sent through aeration tank. Here biological treatment system is there, and the biological solids which are separated in this system will be settled out into the another sedimentation tank, which is called as a secondary clarifier, a secondary sedimentation tank. And the solids which are generated are settled down to the bottom of primary sedimentation tank or secondary sedimentation tank. They'll be sent into a digester where anaerobic decomposition takes place, and the sludge, digested sludge, whatever is coming here, will be sent to agricultural farms for as acting as a fertilizer or soil conditioner. Sometimes this sludge also can be burnt in a incinerator so that the volume and quantity of the sludge is going to reduce. And what are the remainings are there, finally they will be end up into the landfill. So this is all about the system, and the treated water can directly enter into the receiving water, or is a disposal system. It can go into receiving water bodies or online for irrigation or for marine disposal or into municipal sewer, depending on the different type of disposal options. So sometimes we also give a disinfection process necessary, and subsequently we'll send it into a receiving water body. So now here in this slide, we are talking about the different classifications of the treatment system. This is the screens, nothing but a mesh. Comminutor is often used, but not regularly. So this is mainly used to reduce the size of the particle, to make it smaller in size. So so that it will be easier to settle down in the sedimentation tank or chamber. And this is a grit chamber. The solids which are settled down, they're called as a grit and is sent for disposal. And they are treated water coming out from the grit chamber enters into a primary clarifier, primary sedimentation tank. The sludge is taken separately, and afterwards it enters into an aeration tank. There are different types of aeration system, biological treatment systems. This is one model. And then we're having a secondary treatment system, secondary sedimentation tank. The sludge coming out will again joins the primary sludge. Some portion of this is recycled back into the biological treatment system. And occasionally there is going to be a disinfectant added to this treated water before it is discharged into surface water or tertiary treatment if needed. So now the same information we are trying to understand in a tabulation column. Preliminary treatment, it is nothing but removal of large floating material, oil and grease, coarse solids, screens, grid channel, skimming tank. So the primary treatment is divided into two categories here, preliminary and primary. So primary sedimentation tank is called as a primary, and the remaining the screen, grid channel, skimming tank mainly remove our oil and grease. So they are called as a preliminary treatment system. Some places the treatment system will stop at the primary and depending on the concentration of the impurities. Otherwise, it can go for a secondary treatment system. And secondary treatment system, as I mentioned, it removal of organic and biological solids. There we are showing this activated sludge process, attached growth process. This is a biological treatment system. And whatever the sludge it is there coming out from the sedimentation tank, it should be dewatered and digestion of the sludge. That is the purpose. And we are having anaerobic digester, sludge drying beds, vacuum flotation, pressing filter, etc. But out of all these things, either anaerobic digester or sludge drying beds, which are generally used in the common wastewater treatment plants for community purpose. So now you see here in this mechanism, the unit operation screens are mainly used for removal of large floating material. The principle of operation is interception. Grid channel, removal of coarse solids by sedimentation. Skimming tank, removal of oil and grease by simple flotation. Primary sedimentation tank, and usually we write as PST, removal of fine organic and organic solids, sedimentation, settling. And aeration tank, trickling filter, secondary sedimentation tank, these are all part of secondary biological treatment systems. So here, the aeration tank, we use a suspended growth process. And trickling filter, we go for attached growth process. Secondary sedimentation tank, we will talk about the sedimentation. And then sludgy handling, we are having a sludge digester. And digestion are mainly the volume reduction of the sludge. Sludge contains a large amount of water, very less percentage of solids. So handling of that heavy sludge because of high moisture content is difficult. So the objective is to reduce the moisture content. Because of that, we are having a number of options. So we are having one method called anaerobic digestion. It's a mechanism for the sludge digesters. The output of this anaerobic digestion is your carbon dioxide and methane, where methane can be used for household purposes in the form of heating and other household cooking activities because methane has high amount of calorific value. Sludge drying beds, they mainly used for dewatering of the sludge. Here, mainly the sand filtration process is used here by the principle of operation. And some other methods are also there for drying and dewatering. We can have heating so that all moisture is evaporated. We can have a compression so that the water squeezes out from the solids, leaving a solid cake, and vacuum separation. So here sucking the water from the sludge so that water and solids are separated.